Okay, so this is a recording of the translation and discussion of chapter 30 in Ecce Romani, fire exclamation point. So, conspexerat Aurelia. Aurelia had caught sight of, conspexerat is pluperfect, so had, and ingentem insulam, a huge apartment building. Remember that insula can either mean apartment building, where most Romans would actually have lived, or an island. A qua, out of which, a meaning out of, and qua from qui quote, so this is now going to be a relative clause. A magna vis, a large force, a large amount. Vis is a third declension I stem that would decline wis in the genitive with a short I, vi in the dative, we, vim in the accusative, and v long I in the ablative singular. In the plural, its stem is actually going to be vir, and often it is confused with the word for man, but the word for man would have second declension endings, whereas this would be vires, third declension, for strengths, or forces, or powers. And then virium in the genitive, a um ending, ium, because it's an I stem, viribus, vires again, and viribus. And here the nominative, it is the subject of emittibator, out of which a large force, amount, fumi, of smoke, ac flammarmen, of flames, emittibator, was being sent out. Cornelia already, yam can mean now or already, with a past tense verb like kurebat, I like to say already was running ad id edificium. Now, id comes from is, a, id, as, a, e, id, o, and so forth and so on. Here, however, it is not going to be the pronoun he, she, it, or him, her, it, because it is modifying edificium. Whenever a form of is, a, id modifies a noun, it becomes the equivalency of hic, haec, hoc, this or these, or le, la, lud, that or those. Well, Cornelia already was running to that building, summa claritate, with the greatest speed. Cum Aurelia. Cum, with an ablative, is going to mean with as a preposition, but here there is no ablative, and so it's going to translate when and introduce a subordinate clause. When Aurelia shouted ei to her. So here ei is not modifying anything, and thus it is merely the dative personal pronoun to him, ei, to her, ei, to it, ei. And this is the middle one, the feminine one, so to her. Cave Cornelia, be careful, Cornelia. Est periculosum, it is dangerous to approach. And here, this ei on line 3, since it's modifying incendio, no longer is it going to be to him, to her, to it, but rather the equivalency of hic, haec, hoc, this and these, or le, la, lud, that and those. It is dangerous to approach that fire, this fire. And incendio, modified by the ei, is dative because appropinquare is our infinitive that takes a dative object. There are a whole list of verbs whose objects must be in the dative case. Normally, an object is in the accusative, but this one takes a dative, and it is functioning as the subject of the sentence. To approach that fire is dangerous. We say the idiom, it is dangerous, but that appropinquare is indeed the word dangerous. Also, throughout this recording, I'll be saying 3 random items that if you then take a short quiz on Canvas, you'll be able to receive credit of 100. So your first item is battery. Your first item is battery. They're going to be random things that I see as I'm going through. Mox, fumus, omnia obscurabat. So soon, the smoke, the fumus, as it were, was obscuring all things. Omnia could be nominative, plural neuter, or it could be accusative, plural neuter, and here it is the accusative object. Cornelia edificium ipsum. Weeks videre pot erat. Now, Cornelia pot erat. Pot erat is imperfect from the verb possum, posse, potui. And it is nothing more than sum esse. So you give all the forms sum ss, sumus esse with pot on the front. Well, that's exactly what we've done here in the imperfect tense, eram, eras, erat, with a pot on the front. If this had been potu erat, and thus it would have the perfect stem of possum, posse, potui, it would be the pluperfect had been able, but here imperfect because it doesn't have the perfect stem, and erat is the word, not an ending. So Cornelia was able videre, to see scarcely, weeks, the edificium ipsum, the building itself. Ipsa ipsa ipsum means myself, yourself, himself, herself, itself, ourselves, y'all selves, or themselves, depending upon what it's modifying as an adjective. Multi homines, many people, men, were running about hook iluk this way and that way. And remember, concursabant is a frequentative. It is the verb that is made from another verb's fourth principal part, in this instance, curro, curre, curry, cursus. And when you make a verb from the fourth principal part, it becomes a verb that implies a repeated action. That's why we say running about. Omnia. So previously, the omnia in line 4 was accusative. This omnia in line 5 is the nominative subject of aguntur. So all things are being done, aguntur, present tense, present stem, present vowel, present ending, and it's passive, at the same time, simul ab incolis, by the inhabitants. And remember, incola is a first declension word that happens to be masculine. So by the tenants, by the inhabitants, all things are done at the same time together, simul. Infantes ex edificio a matribus efferuntur. Infants are carried out from the building ex edificio a matribus, by their moms. This is your ablative of personal agent, since it's a passive verb. The infermi, the weak, are being dragged out of the doors, a Januis, and bona, the goods, literally the good things, it's substantized, are being thrown out of the windows. Invia, ponentur, kistai, lecti, ornamenta. Here's the tricolon crescanes, and an ascendaton, no conjunctions, because they probably are all grouped together in just big piles. So, trunks, beds, furnishings, ponentur, from pono, ponere, posui, positus. It means to put, are placed in the street, in via. Cornelia spectaculum tam miserabile numquam antia viderat. Cornelia, numquam antia, never before had seen. Viderat is pluperfect. It has perfect stem, weed, and a pluperfect ending. A spectacle, spectaculum tam miserabile, so miserable. Tam means so or so much. Miserabile is neuter accusative. The, of course, nominative line would be miserabilis, miserabilis, and then the neuter miserabile, which is the same in the nominative as the accusative. Accusative here, modifying spectaculum. Lacrimabant mulieres. Women were crying, et liberos parvos tenebat, and they were holding their small children, their little children, liberos parvos, literally the liberos are the free ones. Lacrimabant liberi, the children were crying, qui, who were seeking, quairo, quairere, quaesivi, quaesitus, their own parent. Suos, remember, means his own, her own, its own, or their own, depending upon what it is referring to. And then the parentes, in the next sentence, clamabant, were shouting, parents, qui, who were looking for their own children. Via erat plena eorum. So the street was full of them. Eorum comes from is, id, eis, all the way down to the genitive plural. Eorum, eorum, and it is not modifying anything, so it is going to be the personal pronoun of them. Of them, the people, qui, who had come to the spectacle, venerat, from venio, venire, veni, ventus, with erant, making it a pluperfect verb, alei, and then a little bit later, we might see another alei, and we do in the very next line. So when it is by itself, it's just going to mean others, or as a singular aleus would mean another. But since it has both of them, you would translate in the plural some and then others. And if it were singular, it'd be one and then another. So some ex adstantibus, out of the one standing by, we substantize that to mean bystanders. Some were carrying water. Alei, others, in insulam intrabant, were entering into the apartment building. Et auxilium incolis miseris ferebant, and they were bringing help to the miserable inhabitants. Multi tamen nihil faciebant. Many, however, and multi is substantized, many people, however, tamen, were doing nothing. Faciebant. They say, inquiunt. Certainly, we, and I know that we knows means we and not us here because the verb has mus. And again, this is that same verb we saw earlier. It's nothing more than sumus with a POT on the front of it. We are able to do nothing, certainly. In hoc urbe, in this city, they are accustomed, remember, soleo solere, is the verb to be accustomed, not anything to do with being alone. So there are accustomed SA to be in Candia. Fires, fires which we are not able to extinguish. Now, qui in the chart in which it, of course, appears, qui, quod, quis, qui, quim, quam, quo, qua, quo, qui. There's it again, 2 more times. Quorum, quibus, quos, qui. So it could be 4. It could be nominative singular feminine, nominative plural feminine, nominative plural neuter, so 3 nominatives, and accusative. And that's what it is here, accusative plural neuter, because it is the object of extinguere, fires which we, the subject, possumus, are not able to extinguish. We are not able to extinguish which, referring to those fires. Neque hoc artificium, neque hos in colas servare possumus. We are able to save, servare, not to serve, that's a different verb altogether. To save neither this building in the neuter singular accusative nor these inhabitants. Ecce, look. In tertio tabulato on the 3rd floor, huius insulae of this apartment building, huius here, of course, hic, hoc, huius. There is, est, a mother, and then this cum, unlike the cum you saw up on line 2, this cum does have an ablative object, duobus liberis. So here it is the prepositional phrase with 2 children. So there's a mother with 2 children. He miseri, these miserable people, implied again, we're substantizing it, turning that adjective miseri, meaning miserable, into a noun. Paine, almost, are overwhelmed, are overcome, opprimo, opprimere, oppressi, oppressus, with flames. Now, you take that word paine, go all the way up to the line above it, insulae, which, remember, can mean apartment building, or it can also mean island. And so a peninsula is an almost island, and that's why we call it that. Si incolae se servare non possunt, if the inhabitants, non possunt, are not able to save, and since the say is reflexive, accusative here, himself, nope, herself, nope, itself, nope, themselves, yes, because our subject is they. If the inhabitants are not able to save themselves, quid nos facere possumus, what are we able to do? Quid is the relative, or not relative, but the interrogative adjective, or I should say here in this instance, interrogative pronoun, and it is either neuter nominative or neuter accusative. In this case, it's accusative because it's the object of facere. Your second word is magnet. Magnet is your second word. Alrighty. Subito, suddenly, unus ex adstantibus, one out of the bystanders, shouted out, exclamavit, perfect tense, cavete omnes, be careful all. Omnes is vocative here, and it's substantized, and thus, indeed, all people, beware, cavete, nisi statum au fugiatis, and here, if I see, I long e, future it will be, if not, unless, or except for nisi. So let's go with if not. If y'all will not flee immediately, or unless y'all will flee immediately, vos omnes, y'all all will be overwhelmed, will be crushed out, either by stones, lepidibus, or by flames. Opprimemini is future tense, I can tell, because long e in a 3rd conjugation verb is going to be a future. If it's a long e in a 2nd conjugation verb, it'd be present. But this opprimo, opprimere is 3rd. Tum Cornelia. Then Cornelia says, Ehu mater, alas, mother, I very much am moved, as in am moved emotionally. Cum, now here we again look for an ablative. Hos is not ablative, that's an accusative. So when I see, video, these hos miseros liberos, ta miseros, these so miserable children, these children so miserable. Remember that ta means so or so much. Quis. Now, if quid means what? Quis is who. Quis refers to a person. Quid refers to a thing. So who? Feret. Again, I must ask the question. Now, the problem is that fere is irregular. But remember that pharaoh and wolo and nolo are all wannabe thirds. Since they wanna be third, they have the E indicating future. Who will bring help to them. Here, eis is again from is id, and it is the dative line all the way across. Eis, to them, to them, to them. Quomodo, in what way? Or you can translate quomodo, how. If I see I long e, effugient, future it will be. Will they escape? Will they flee? Quid, what? Now, accidit is also with a long e, that T, eighth macron, and it is going to be that it's a third as well. What will happen to them? Cui respondit Aurelia. Cui here is what we call a linking qui. It is from qui qua quod, cuius, qui, but here, instead of saying to whom, it's the equivalency of like an e to her, or if you would like, whick from hikikok, huis, wick, to this one, or ili, ili, to whom, to her, to this one, to that one. Aurelia responded, id nesceo, I do not know it, I do not know this. Sine dubio, without a doubt, jam mortuisunt, they are already dead. Sed cur tu ita commoveris, that e is of a second conjugation. You see at the bottom, commovio, commovere. So that e means that in the second conjugation verb, it'll be present. But why are you two moved ita in such a way? Thus or thusly ita. Nos nihil hic facere possumus. Remember that hic with a long I is here. We are able to do nothing here. Unless or if not. So let's do both. Unless we will flee, if I see I long e immediately, or unless we will flee, or if we will not flee immediately. Nos ipsi. Ipsi could be ourselves, it could be y'all-selves, it could be themselves, but here because it's modifying nos, and nos is we, therefore it is going to be we ourselves scarcely. Up there's the bi, will be saved, passive more. Satis tamen hodividisti. However, tamen, you have seen enough satis today. Age, drive on. And so we will go ebimus ad forum to the forum and ac emamus. Now this is from emo, emere, amy, emptus. And since it is a third conjugation, emere, that e means it's future. We will buy dormice. Your third and final item is eraser. It is an eraser, but hang on for the last sentence. Illo, ipso, tempore. At, by, with, because of, from, in, on, at, that time itself, the parietes, the walls of the apartment building insulae, fell. Cado, cadere, cicidi, did fall, have fallen. Magno fregore, with a loud crash. Nihil manebat, nothing was remaining. Nisi, if not, unless, or except. In this context, I think except is probably the best translation. Except stones and smoke. So hopefully you made an easy 100 by simply watching this for 17 minutes. Good luck and study a lot.